Okay, it's Friday the 23rd of February. We're here with the final Celtic Way morning briefing of the week. I am Hamish, Tony is with me, and Ryan is with me again as well, guys. And we're looking ahead to Motherwell versus Celtic. Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fine Friday, skiving work or whatever these wonderful people decide to do. I remember one day I brought that up and they had, within 30 seconds, there was about 20 excuses of why they get to watch. It's almost as if they were trying to kid someone on that they were not meant to be working or something like that. We believe you. It's good to have you with us anyway, and people who watch later in the day equally. Guys, how are we? How are we feeling about Sunday, Tony?
I always feel good, and I always look forward to the football at the weekend. It's just the team have been letting you down of late, haven't they? But I'm always optimistic. I always think that proverbial corner can be turned. Going to have to, it's just going to have to start at some point. They're going to have to start picking up results. So why not Sunday? Let's do it on Sunday.
I'm stopping myself from using that phrase. No corners will be turned by. I won't be saying that anyway. Hopefully Celtic can do that on Sunday. I'm just fed up saying it. Ryan, how's things?
Yeah, I strangely looking forward to the game on Sunday. I think that's because the press accreditation came in this morning, so Tony and I will both be at the game on Sunday afternoon, lunchtime. Looking forward to it. Hopefully Celtic get back to winning ways. Not the first time I've said that phrase this season as well. So, it's like Groundhog Day sometimes with these videos, but Celtic know what they need to do. 12 games to go in the league, plus the Scottish Cup games. No more margins for error. They have to win basically every single game from now until the end of the season, and with a bit of style as well. Want to see those performances coming back. We were talking off air about the 4-3 game, Celtic v Motherwell back in 2016 when Tom Rogic scored the late winner. We want to be winning games with a bit of style. We want to be scoring goals. Is 4 goals really past Celtic at this point? We need to. Yeah, I know. I get that.
Hopefully not, but
hopefully they find their shooting boots because you talk about style as well, but goal difference is going to be important. Yeah. You would think in this, especially if this league is going to be close. If Celtic can get an early goal in this game on Sunday and then rack up the goal difference, I know that seems like a long way away, and Celtic need to be focusing on getting 3 points. But if they can do that and get a couple of goals, then I think a lot of people will be feeling a lot better about themselves. It's all about getting that feel-good factor back. Everyone's been kind of down on them recently. It's time to stand up and be counted for and be back in this title race, because at the moment, they're slipping. They need to stop the skid and they need to get back on the horse.
Stop the skid. Love it. That kind of sums things up. Morning to John and Isaac and Helen and Hazel and Michael and Paul from Luxembourg and all of these wonderful people checking in. Right, big story yesterday, guys. It arrived too late for our video. Joe Hart has announced his retirement from football at the end of the season. He's been at Celtic for 3 years. His contract was 3 years, and he will leave the club and indeed the sport at the end of that deal. Have we seen the kind of video he did with his pal on Celtic TV? Mm-hmm. The thing I took from it that I found interesting was he was at pains to point out that he's not throwing in the towel yet. He's doing it at the end of the season, and that's probably a harsh phrase to use anyways. He's retiring at the end of the season. He's not doing it now, and it's clearly a worry for him announcing this during the season that people maybe thought like Joe Hart's kind of going to wind down between now and the end of the season, because he mentioned it 2 or 3 times in that interview. He said, fans can be assured, and anyone who knows me will know this, but fans can be assured I'm going to be giving my all to try and bring some success, and then I'm going to depart the game at the end of the season. That was my big takeaway from it, that he's obviously still going to be giving his all, Tony, as you would expect from someone like Joe Hart.
Listen, I don't think there's a Celtic supporter out there that doesn't love Joe Hart and what he brought at a critical time for Celtic. From the moment, remember his pal, he was on holiday and the guy asked him to sing a Celtic song and he launched into Callum McGregor.
Who else was there in that video, by the way? Does anyone know?
There was a Rangers player, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name escapes me, but and I think everybody just kind of fell in love with him then, because he took pictures of coming to Celtic Park, didn't he, when he was on the plane, and Celtic kind of giving him a chance, and it was a union made in heaven, a wee marriage made in heaven. They gave him a chance when everybody said he was washed up, and he came up, and you talk about players just appreciating a lot and being a wonderful influence. And I've had the pleasure of speaking to him a couple of times as well in mix zones, and he's just a wonderful guy. He'll answer everything, and just one of those guys that you think, you deserve every bit of success that you've had and that might possibly come. And I'd love to see him wind down and win the league and cup double, and be a fitting way for someone like that to end his career. Remember, this guy's played for Manchester City and he's played for England, and the best time I've actually seen him pick the ball out of the net was when Lee Griffiths planted those 2 free kicks past him. They were wonderful moments in sport, and the reaction, even covering that was just an incredible day. But I've loved what Joe Hart's brought. Yep, he's been a scapegoat many a time, and we can all talk about his lack of distribution, whatever you want to say. But I don't think there's a Celtic supporter out there that hasn't loved what Joe Hart's brought in terms of on and off the field. And like you, I hate, you were talking about the phrase turn the corner and all that, but I hate using the phrase people get it, but Joe Hart just seemed to grasp it very early and ingratiated himself to the Celtic supporters and kind of knew what it meant. And I think that was just his big game experience playing for a big club, and he knew he'd come to a big club in Scotland, and he's embraced it and he's loved it. And I think he didn't want to get too emotional yesterday. I think he wanted to just say, right, here's what's happening. It's
not the end yet.
Yeah, it's not the end, but here's what's happening to stop all the speculation, basically. And he wants to get on with winning the 2 trophies that are left, and good on him. That's total professionalism. But I think when it comes to the end, you'll see a very emotional Joe Hart. And you thought Jota's message was poignant. I'll watch with interest, but personally, I would keep him around. I would want him on the goalkeeping coaching staff. That's my own thoughts. I said it a while ago as well. If that's possible, I'd love to see him stick around, because I think he could be beneficial to whoever comes in.
He's certainly taken to the club. I think you're right. The fact that he's taken to the club, understood from day one how big a club Celtic are, but he's not been fazed or daunted by it. It's been a really good match. Joe Hart and Celtic have been. We've been great. Sorry, he's been great for us. We've been great for him as well. I think it's been a really good, marriage, and he's had a great career. But even just for his kind of time at Celtic, I really hope we can go out on a high for him. Obviously, I hope we can win the league for many reasons, over and above Joe Hart. But it's just an extra wee reason. And I'm a naive Ryan for thinking that it gives the dressing room a boost at all, or a bit of extra motivation, or are we so broken at the moment that isn't going to save us?
Well, I was actually mentioning this yesterday, and there was another comment that was made. I was just checking on the Instagram comments, and it really is a who's who of all the players that Joe Hart has played with in his career. Some massive names in there, the likes of Raheem Sterling, etc. All these pros that have played alongside him, and even that goalkeepers union coming through, and Shea Given was messaging him as well. But there was one comment that really caught my eye, and that was Greg Taylor's, who, and I think this is the highest liked one, so it'll be at the top if you look at his Instagram. And he said, "Let's win this the right way. Let's go out." I think it was something along the lines of, "Let's go out in the right way." So it shows you that there's a bit of a galvanisation, at least from Greg Taylor to Joe Hart, but you hope that just transcends into the rest of the players. That, right, Joe Hart's retiring at the end of the season. Let's do him proud. Let's get the last 2 trophies available to him to end a glittering career, because, as you said quite rightly, both sides have been helpful for each other. Joe Hart's had a late rejuvenation in his career, when his career was winding down fast. And for Celtic, they got a goalkeeper of good quality who's played at the highest of high levels and solidified the defence for near on 3 seasons. So it's been a great marriage, one that's definitely helped. It's ending at the right time, is what I would say as well. This is perfect timing for both, I think, because any longer, and you might have seen another decline in his game that would maybe tar his reputation. And I don't want to see that. I want him to go out on the high, and he's playing some of the best football of his career, or the best goalkeeping of his career at this point in time. No problem with him leaving at the end of the season. It just means the pressure's now back on Celtic. As good as it is for Joe Hart to get the send-off, it's also a bit of a message to Celtic to say, right, that your first choice goalkeeper's leaving. You know he's at the end of the season. He's going at the end of the season. There is no change in his mind. Now you need to go and scout his replacement. And it's late to scout his replacement because, in all honesty, his replacement should have already been scouted in the past year or so. So, they need to make up for lost time. And I was saying it yesterday as well, when I was talking off air. I was saying there needs to be a replacement brought in before the first day of pre-season, because this is a job. It's a 3-4 year job for the next person coming in. There needs to be solidification in that defence, like there has been with Joe Hart. If Celtic can identify somebody, if they need to break the bank to go and get a decent goalkeeper, or break the wage structure to get a decent goalkeeper, go and do it, because it'll win you 12 to 15 points a season. Just look at the other end of the city, that's happening, definitely with Jack Butland. So it's up to Celtic to do the same in the summer with getting his replacement. But what a career, and looking forward to seeing what he does next. Hopefully he stays around, but the way he was talking makes me think he'll probably go back down south.
It's such a pivotal position, isn't it, the goalkeeper? You look at the successful seasons Celtic have had, and they've all basically been with a good goalkeeper. You very rarely have success when you've got like an issue in your goalkeeping department. Conversely, you look at the really bad seasons we've had, and there's been big issues there. And I'm not going to name a certain Greek goalkeeper, don't worry, although someone in the comments was. What else was I going to say? I think Joe Hart realises that he wants to go out the high, and he basically said that he wants to, can't remember the exact phrase he used, but sprint through the finishing line or something like that. He wants to finish well. Final thing, what you were saying there, Ryan, right at the start on that extra motivation, you just wonder if something like that may be what it takes to get this Celtic side just together and galvanise them a little bit. I hate to compare, Joe Hart to obviously something, far more serious, but you remember the 07-08 season when we were really, really struggling, and obviously the really sad news of Tommy Burns' death came through, and horrendous news. It probably had a galvanising effect for that squad at that stage, and it became the title for Tommy and all that stuff. And obviously I'm not really comparing those two things, but you wonder if Joe Hart leaving could have some sort of galvanising effect on that squad and get them out of what they're going through at the moment. Is there any hint of that, do you think, Tony? I mean, what do you think the players will be saying after Joe Hart's retirement?
I think the players will probably have known, and I think Joe Hart, being the gentleman that he is, maybe canvassed their opinion on the fact that he was going to go public with it. As I say, you just want to get it out there, don't you, and not have it hanging around your neck. And if Celtic concede goals and people say, "Oh, he's finished, he's this and that," as we wind down the season. So I think it's a smart move by Joe Hart, isn't it? Because if it has a galvanising effect and the guys do get something extra, Celtic will take anything at this minute in time to get a bit of extra from those players. And I think he's very shrewd. There's a shrewd professional at work. And as you say, it's things like that that can help. I know you talk about the gravity and the seriousness of Tommy Burns' death and the poignancy of it, but you have to say that really did have a tremendous effect on that Celtic team. And you can talk about a lot of things about, but when Gordon Strachan spoke about Tommy Burns, it was sensational when he spoke about him, and that just brought everybody together. So in this kind of sense, I know it's completely different and you're stressing that, but it's things like that can unite you in that dressing room, and you just say 12 to go, if all else fails, as Greg Taylor said, let's win it for that guy who's hanging up his gloves. Let's do it for him. And and on such things, seasons can turn. So you're looking for some kind of response on Sunday, and you take it from there. But I think, as you say, it can have an effect, and I applaud Joe Hart for doing it now, rather than letting the speculation rumble on and people, maybe having a pop, as Ryan says. I think he knows. Every footballer knows when it's time to go, don't they? And I think he's just like, it's my time, and thank you, but let's go out in the highest possible high, win the league and the Scottish Cup, and he'll be carried shoulder down London Road if he manages to do that. The fans will be like, thank you so much. And there's very few times in your life when you've watched goalkeepers and you've heard a noise like a goal being scored when someone's actually saved the football. When Arthur Boric saved the penalty, Louis Saha, Manchester United, and Fraser Forster did the same against Barcelona and Rangers in the League Cup final. And I think Ryan pointed out in his piece yesterday when Joe Hart saved the ball against Jablonec, that kind of double save, and everybody realised this guy's really good. We've got somebody between the sticks after you said the goalkeeper that shall not be named, and you thought this guy can actually save a football. And it was that kind of that moment, the light bulb moment, when you thought he's been there and done it. This could work out well, and then it has. Yeah, and everybody can say he's done this and that, and he's been at fault for. Name me a goalkeeper that hasn't been at fault for goals throughout their career. So, but I think history will be kind to him. The 3 years that he spent have been pretty wonderful for himself as well, and I think that'll be reflected when he comes to talk about Celtic when he finally says goodbye.
Completely forgotten about that Jablonec moment, and that was a really thinking back. What an amazing moment that was. I think that was the first full game at Celtic Park, with the kind of crowds back, and that was a really kind of a big moment for Celtic, but also for Joe Hart.
I actually think we did a post-match reaction, Hamish, you and I, after that game as well. I seem to remember that's a while ago.
Was that about 3 years ago now?
Yeah, it must have been near enough 3 years ago now. It's crazy. But that was such a big galvanising moment as well. And I think it's important to just highlight Joe Hart in that. And, there was a couple of people quote tweeting, as you do, when they look at that, anybody could save that. The fact is, Celtic goalkeepers weren't saving shots like that the season before. Context is key in any situation. Certainly context and the makeup of that. Yes, it was right at him, but it seemed as if it was like a euphoric moment, as if people are back in the stadium. They've been watching on the TV goalkeepers fumbling the ball into the net all season, the season before. The fact that they had somebody that could do the basics all over again made them an instant hero. I think he had 2 big saves on that night, and they were both met with loud cheers from the support. That was that early guy. Yeah. It was such an early galvanisation moment for Joe Hart, and yes, his careers went up and down with Celtic. I'm not going to revise any sort of history whatsoever and say that there hasn't been some down moments, because there has been, particularly in Europe. But on the whole, complete value for money for a player that was brought in for £1 million. Certainly, he's done a lot better than the other player that was announced on that day, in James McCarthy, that I thought was going to be a better signing than Joe Hart on the day. But, these things sometimes don't work out. And
James McCarthy will still outlast them at Celtic, which is
absolutely, yeah. And that's an achievement in itself, I presume, or I guess. But, value for money, £1 million. The fact that he's hardly ever been injured as well is a big plus. And I'm not going to say he's going to be difficult to replace, because I think if Celtic's scouting system's good enough, then they should be able to replace him for a younger goalkeeper that's maybe better with the ball at his feet. Plus, he can do the actual saving, the most important part of his game. Celtic have got their recruitment right, then, and recruitment's been a bit sketchy recently, but you're hoping if they can get their recruitment right in that position, then they'll be fine coming to next season.
Recruitment's been a bit sketchy. It might be the greatest understatement in the history of Celtic. I want to go through a few comments, because they're piling in, and everyone's talking about Kelleher in the chat. I think Kelleher is the person who a lot of Celtic fans want. We can maybe discuss that in a minute. Gordon, morning guys, all the best to Joe. He's been a great servant to the club. Hopefully we can send him off with a league and cup double. Andrew saying g'day. Wonder where he's from. Joe Hart has been great value. Ange really tested him late in his career, but the big man did well, and he's been keeping up us in the race lately. Francis, good morning, boys. Think we need a lot more than a new keeper for next season. Money won't last long if they're talking 15 million for a goalkeeper. Martin wants us to give him a coaching role. Pete saying we should consider ourselves lucky to have had Hart for 3 years. He has had a pretty epic career, to be honest, when you look at the club. 75 England caps, is it?
Yeah.
CJ said his career isn't over. Playing wise makes me think he will go into coaching. He certainly strikes me as the kind of guy that will want to stay in the sport because he loves it so much. Alistair, his on-field passion will be missed. Hopefully this will drive the team on to let Joe leave as a double winner. Michael wants to keep him around. And Michael says he'll be missed as he's a big character. And Patrick talking about Fraser Forster. No idea why he's talking about Fraser Forster, but I'm going to allow it because that performance in the cup final is always worth a mention in every video.
Pound for pound better than his Barcelona performance for me.
But that's what I mean. Very rarely in your Celtic supporting life do you give kudos to goalkeepers. It's just not a cool position, is it? And it's not one that you think, great. But when you talk about Celtic goalkeepers, you immediately think of Fraser Forster's performance in that cup final, Fraser Forster's performance against Barcelona, Arthur Boric's save against Man, and that kind of stuff. And now Joe Hart, I think, will be thrown into that mix for just that kind of the joy that he brought to Celtic supporters and the fact that he as Ryan said, he solidified a problem position, and he came in and he embraced it. And this was a guy who you heard so much about. Even people were talking about, he'll be a disruptive influence in the dressing room. He's been anything but. He's been a wonderful influence in that dressing room, which is why I would love to keep him around. But if he decides to go back down south, because I think his family's down there, then he'll go with every Celtic supporter's best wishes. And as I say, it's like, he's not the goalkeeper is not the coolest member of a team or the band, is it? So whenever you ask anyone their favourite players, they'll always say a goal scorer or a midfielder. It's never a goalkeeper, is it? And, so this guy will be fondly remembered. I'm not saying he'll be, people say he's the best ever Celtic goalkeeper, but whenever Joe Hart's name's brought up, Celtic supporters will smile and say, he did a job, he was good for us. And I like that. I'm pleased that it worked out that way for Joe Hart.
But listen, Joe Hart would be the first one to tell us that, he would probably wish we did this at the end of the season because he is very much just focused. And for a fact he'll be focused on Sunday. Just briefly, Ryan, replacements, any immediate thoughts on a replacement? Does Kelleher excite you? I thought you were maybe rolling your eyes a wee bit.
I was thinking, no, that was me thinking. I wasn't rolling my eyes. I wasn't showing any disdain towards you, Hamish, I promise. Kelleher's a name that I've heard a lot of times. It's definitely been a second choice goalkeeper, albeit for Liverpool. They've probably got the best goalkeeper in the world, or one of them, in Alisson. So not a bad player to learn off of, but it's very different playing as a second choice goalkeeper to automatically becoming a first choice goalkeeper. Because he's not got that experience of being a first choice goalkeeper in his career before. Players like Joe Hart and that. And I know Fraser Forster became a first choice as well, so maybe you could make that sort of comparison between the two. Some of the figures that I'm seeing towards Kelleher makes me think that that's a non-starter. I think he'll probably go to a fellow Premier League team for around about 10-15 million. I could see maybe the most Celtic paying 7-8 million, and even then, will they actually spend that on a goalkeeper? Who knows? But like I say, whenever a manager loses his job and people are asking, who would you bring him in? Who would you replace? I'm like, it's the scouting team's job to figure that out, to find the best fit for Celtic. They've got to find a youngish goalkeeper. Younger than 36 should be okay for Celtic to find for a goalkeeper. Because like I said before, this isn't a 1 or 2 year job. I think this is 3 or 4 years for a player to develop at Celtic and then maybe make that next step. You've got to look at the Dutch league. You've got to look at the Belgian league. There are goalkeepers emerging all the time. Maybe even use your contacts. Look at South America. Try and find that next Alisson or Ederson or whoever before the big teams do, or the big scouted teams like Benfica and that do. That can be more difficult because their scouting systems are so set in place that they'll automatically find a player when they have a really good game. But these are the avenues that Celtic have got to look in, and I don't want them getting put off by the foreign option just because of Barkas. And yes, I'm going to mention his name, but I don't want them getting put off by that one player. If there is a good foreign player to be got in a different league,
Ryan, see if you were acting like a big club and you had all your ducks in a row and your scouting system in order, you would know who was coming in, because this wouldn't have blindsided you, Joe Hart.
They'll have known that Joe Hart was going to.
His replacement should already be in the club. In all honesty,
he should be either there or they should be.
Scott Bain.
I knew you were going to make that point, Hamish. I could see it in your eyes.
They should know who's coming in, or they should be making advances towards that. That's the whole point you mentioned. If the recruitment team get it right, and that's the big problem with Celtic, isn't it? They should be all over this from today onwards. and should have been for a while, knowing that this announcement was coming. The same as you sort of said there, they would have known that this surely can't have blindsided them. It can't. And see if it has, then again, you just look at it and you think, what are the club doing? But I don't want to be all negative going into Sunday. You want more positive chat, and here's hoping that they get some kind of G up, from Joe Hart saying he's leaving, and they do it for him. So I want to keep it like that. But you just don't trust the people in charge to get this right, do you? Or kind of or have started any work on it. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you really don't. Anyway, we'll move forward to Sunday at Fir Park. It's a must-win, basically, isn't it? I mean, I think we have a tendency to use that phrase quite a lot, and we say it early on in the season when it isn't really a must-win. This, if we're going in 5 points behind, which I expect us to be, will be a must-win match. So, what are the thoughts? I mean, we've kind of covered it throughout the week, but has anything changed? Can you give us your predicted 11s yet, guys, or are they still in the works?
They'll probably be out tomorrow because it's a Sunday game. We usually try and do them 24 hours before the team kicks off, just to get it the best sort of traction. But I think some early predictions. I think Tori and I both want Tomoki Iwata in that midfield. Just to
Is that realistic?
I think so, because he's been on the bench the past couple of games, so he's ready to come in if called upon. I just think there needs to be a change in that midfield. Something's not working for whatever reason. Kyogo has been playing as a sort of midfielder, and I know everybody's opinion on that isn't the most positive one. Here's just a question back to you guys. Would you change it and just stick to one up front, or would you continue to persevere with Ida and Kyogo just behind them?
No, I want two up front. I don't even want them behind them. I seriously want to go two up front on Sunday. I really do. And I know we spoke about it on Monday, Tuesday. Manager has to maybe swallow his pride a wee bit and then just say, do you know what? Because they need goals as well, Ryan. And they're struggling to score goals and create. So you're only going to score goals with guys up front. So I'm inclined to go 4-4-2 on Sunday. I really am. And Tomoki and Bernardo alongside McGregor and O'Reilly, because you're getting nothing from the wingers at all. Absolutely nothing. So, and I would go with Ida and Kyogo up front and see if we can do so. I said earlier, the element of surprise. People will expect, Motherwell and maybe others will expect Celtic to play with wingers. So you've got to surprise people and mix it up. It's just my own thoughts. I hope that he maybe does that. But I had a wonderful conversation with Steve McGrory, who's a regular on here, and he said to me last night, we were talking, and he said he was sick of the nepotism, cronyism, complacency and lethargy. And I texted him back and says, is that Celtic's back four for Sunday? And seemingly he laughed out loud. So I'm giving him the credit for that. I said I would mention it and give him the credit, but he was kind of laughing. But, you just need something, don't we? We need a kickstart and a change of formation, just something to, because Ryan, you said it's not enough now to think about even winning the game, which they have to. They actually need to start scoring goals as well now. So
I've actually went back on that. I just want Celtic to win games now. I'm kind of sick of them dropping points, to be honest.
I get that, but you're now in that situation. That's the situation you find yourself in. Are they good enough to win the games? And are they good enough to win them by, some margins? Arguably not at this minute in time. Yeah. So, so that's the thing. But yeah, I'll take winning. But in order to win, you're going to have to change something. And
I just think we're leaving games too open, like in terms of the amount of games that we go into the last 10 minutes 1 goal ahead. I'd love to know the stats. I'll maybe look into it. But like the 2 games against Motherwell already this season, they've scored late equalisers. Yeah. Obviously we got away with it at Fir Park, but there's so many games. Kelly obviously on Saturday's another example. We don't kill games off the same way we used to. And for me, that's the key. Like, a record of getting the first goal in matches this season is probably decent when you look at it, but it's just the fact that we let the opposition into games so often. It's like that. Those second halves are just not on, guys. So we need to see more. Just going back to the team, yeah, definitely 2 up front. Maida and Kyogo up front for me. If they're side by side, Kyogo deeper isn't it? And Pete saying we've tried 4-4-2. Tony, don't see where that got us. For me, it would probably be just Kyogo stretching the game, but Tony's idea is fine for me as well if it's the 2 of them. If anything, guys, I would want Adam Ida to be the one coming to the ball, if anything, and using his strength, and Kyogo darting in behind. I just think we've kind of got it, because Kyogo can clearly finish, we know that. Ida, from what we've seen so far, apart from penalties, doesn't seem to be a finisher. So surely, but the thing that Ida's been good at is his build-up play, and his link-up has looked quite good. So you almost kind of want him being the one doing the link-up, playing Kyogo, just stick to what you're good at.
So if you and I have seen that, Hamish, you know what I mean? And lots of other fans have seen that. I thought the big man's close control is brilliant. And he's played in a couple of people and he's looked really good. That's one asset that he has. Is one aspect of his game he's looked quite sharp at. So that, you know, I say to myself, well, surely you've got to feed off that and have Kyogo on the shoulder. And if the big man can turn and play him in, then even better. So yeah, I think that for me is a kind of no-brainer.
Ryan?
Yeah, I've got no problem with Ida and Kyogo playing. Personally, I think I would want to revert back to maybe just playing Kyogo up front, but trying to get the ball to him and give him more service. Make sure he is the number 1 striker, and he's the guy that you get to finish goals. You know, this wasn't a problem. Playing 1 striker up front was not a problem under Ange Postecoglou, but that's because the delivery was good, and his receiving of the ball was constant, and he would get in those areas. You know, I'm missing that goal of Kyogo just running onto a shot, running onto an early cross, quick, shooty in football, easy, goal after goal after goal. It seems like
they played with wingers that could do that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but some of those wingers are still at the club. They just need to buck up their ideas a bit.
They're not doing it, are they?
I know. For me, I think the biggest hot take for me, and people might disagree with me for saying this, but I'd play Bernardo over Matt O'Reilly on Sunday. I don't know what Matt O'Reilly's given this team at the moment. I don't know what he's given us for the past 3-4 weeks, to be honest with you. I think there's time to change it up in the midfield. See if there's a bit of a response. I don't even think he started the last game at Fir Park. Didn't he come off the bench in the second half of that game? It's not a dropping or anything. It's just a rotation, and it's just a rotation in the side. I would put Bernardo in because I thought he looked okay in glimpses, apart from missing that sitter towards the end of the game, which in turn cost the club because they didn't go clear in the game, and then the Kilmarnock equalised. But I would change it up a bit. Throw Bernardo in, see what happens. Maybe even put Iwata in and throw McGregor further forward alongside Bernardo. Change up the midfield, make it a wee bit fresher, and see if you get a bit of a response. If it doesn't work, you can bring on Matt O'Reilly, and Matt O'Reilly will have a point to prove. But at this moment in time, something's got to give with Matt O'Reilly. Matt O'Reilly's either going to win you the league or lose you the league. And at the moment, if he's playing and the way the points are going, he will lose you the league because he's not contributing nearly as much as what he was beforehand. So he needs to get back on form. Maybe a spot on the bench will do him good.
He'll not get back on form sitting on the bench.
It might fire him up. It might fire him up, and what is he bringing this team at the moment? He's not bringing goals. He's not bringing assists. He's looked anonymous the past 3-4 games. Absolutely, but Matt O'Reilly was the shining light in the first half of the season, and his form has dropped off completely. I think there just needs to be something that will ignite him, and I think maybe a spot on the bench, at least for the first portion of the game, could work. I know that sounds quite tribal and whatever, or drop a player and then make him think about his performances, but it might just spur him on. Celtic are at this point where they need to start trying things. Nobody's undroppable in this team, and Matt O'Reilly's included in that.
Yeah, nobody is undroppable, but you can't drop a guy who creatively can, and also he's added goals to his armoury this season, Ryan.
When was the last time he scored, though?
Yeah, I know. Right, but lots of players have a dip in form. He's having a dip in form. I think that's clear to see. But he was a match winner the last time he was there. He's contributed a lot of goals this season, contributed a lot of assists. So in a game that you must win, I don't see the logic in dropping Matt O'Reilly. Granted, he's not performed past few weeks. I get that, but yeah, I think you have to go to Fir Park, and you need guys like Matt O'Reilly to turn it on. You really do.
Scored against St Mirren. That was the original St Mirren game in the league in the start of January. Yeah, just in one word, CCV, does he start for each of you?
No.
One word, mind.
Only if he's 100%.
One word, come on.
I was already half speaking by the time you said it. There's a bit of a delay as well. You're in Melbourne, we're in Scotland.
Oh, God. I suppose I'm 11 hours ahead of you. It's a wonder we can even do these videos. Even start for me.
What's the score on Sunday, Hamish?
I'll find out Monday morning, I guess. Hopefully it goes well, guys. It's going to be a big weekend. We're a couple of points behind at the moment. We could be on top the next time we reconvene for a video. We could also be 5 behind, and probably a lot of people would be calling it a day at that stage. So it's a bit of a big weekend, but they're all going to be like that. You guys are going to get together, I take it, later in the day after Brendan Rodgers' press conference. I'm assuming you'll be able to talk about CCV a bit more at that stage, and anything else that comes up. There usually is an interesting wee nugget from Brendan Rodgers' press conferences, so people can tune into that later in the day. This video and all of our videos are brought to you by MPH Group and Navien. MPH are Scotland's award-winning family-run all trades specialists. They cover mainland Scotland, and they've got a Navien Boiler Promotion on the go at the moment. With that, you get a free Internet Controller from Navien. You get flexible finance options and much more, so that you can make the smart move and sign up with them. Right, we're going to head off. Thanks everyone again for tuning in. Have a lovely weekend, and I'll catch you on Monday. Obviously, Ryan and Tony will be